world where every ping, scroll, and swipe pulls us deeper into distraction. How do we reclaim our humanity? Today on Soul Sparks with Saima, we are joined by our amazing guest Colin Corby, TEDx speaker, mindset coach, and the creator of the Digital Detox Coach. With decades of experience in technology and the endurance mindset of an athlete, Colin helps people break free from digital overload to live with clarity, focus, and balance. So let's dive into the art of disconnecting to truly reconnect with ourselves. So, Colin, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You're warmly welcome. It's my pleasure to have you here, Colin. So, I would really like to ask you that why do you believe digital detox has become more critical than ever in this AI driven, hyper connected world?
So we've had smartphones. Really, the explosion of smartphones started in 2007, and we're now in 2025. So we've been carrying around our digital devices and being connected on the move for quite some time now. But there's a tipping point because although we're so used to being distracted by smartphones and screens, because of the advent of AI a couple of years ago and AI improvements every year, we've now got AI that is able to anticipate what we want to do some of our thinking for us, to do a lot of the work for us. And we're becoming more and more dependent. So I think we're at a tipping point now with all of our experiences that we've had of being connected 24 by 7 with our smartphones and technology. We're now at a tipping point where AI, and we're using AI to do a lot of our thinking for us. So now is the time to really step back and think, well, how do we live sustainably with this technology?
Mm-hmm. Well said, Colin. And I think you've captured the reality of our times that technology is advancing faster than ever. And while it offers, incredible opportunities, it also demands a lot of our attention and energy. And the way you have framed like digital detox as a tool for balance rather than a rejection of tech is really powerful.
Yeah,
Really
it's
well.
not, we have to live with technology. We have to work with technology, but we have to live sustainably. And what I mean by that is that we're all biological animals, and there are things that we need as biological social humans that we have to satisfy. And if we don't meet those needs, sooner or later, there will be implications for our long term mental and physical health. So it's all about balance.
Absolutely, I agree. So, do you think that people even realize how much tech is shaping their identity?
No, I don't think people do realize our identities are shaped as soon as we're born. So we don't come fully pre programmed. We're shaped by our experiences, and every experience that we have shapes who we are. So you can have identical twins who are completely different people because they've been shaped by different experiences. So here's the thing, if we're spending more and more of our time online, and more of our experiences are online, those experiences are shaping who we are. So the more time we spend online, the more we're being shaped by what we're doing online, but equally as important, what we're being offered by the global technology companies and all of the nudges and advertising techniques that they use. So we're slightly losing our identity or the ability to control our identity through spending too much time online.
Yes, that's really an interesting point, Colin. It really, I too feel that it really makes us stop and think about how much our identity is quietly influenced by the tools and platforms we grew up with. Being said that, again, like your perspective really highlights that why awareness is so important because without it, technology can define us in ways we don't even notice.
Yes, and I mean now it's already possible to have AI friends online. We already have AI influencers. So not only is the technology shaping us, but some of our connections of who we might believe are human or who we respond to in a human way are also shaping who we are and what we believe in as well.
Absolutely, yes, that's really eye-opening, Colin. Now, you talk about reclaiming focus. So, can you share the biggest everyday distractions that quietly drain people's energy?
So we've evolved to be easily distracted because it's an important survival skill. So we've all had to learn how to be focused on one thing and to shut out other things. Now, the simple example is when we're learning to read and write. We have to try really, really hard over many years to get the focus and attention to do those sorts of things. But when we go online, there's so many distractions. There's so many hyperlinks. There's so many adverts. There's so many screens we could go to. And what's been happening, the research has shown that our attention span has been reducing. So studies done by Professor Gloria Mark with information workers has plotted the demise of our attention span from 2.5 minutes to down to 47 seconds. And so we are expecting to be distracted. And if we're not distracted by our technology, then we distract ourselves. So what we all have to do is we have to relearn how to achieve focus and attention. But we need help. And one of those simple ways of helping is we change our environments. So digital detox is really a digital habit off switch. It enables us to move away from technology so we have time to think and to do things that we really want to do. And if you want to train your focus and attention, one of the best ways is to go back to reading paper books.
Yes, it's so easy to underestimate that how much our energy gets scattered when we try to juggle too many things at once. And your point is a great reminder that it's less about doing more and more about being fully present with what truly matters. And that really hits home.
Yes, and I think it's about removing the complexity. So the human brain can't actually multitask. You can't do the same cognitive tasks with the same resources. In order to do that, those resources have to stop one task and switch to the other task. There's a lot of stop starting, but it does it so quickly that it fools us into multitasking. But one of the consequences of all that stop starting is that it creates stress, and the quality of what we do sooner or later starts to suffer. And we have to work longer to achieve the same things. So if we want to be productive, then it's better to focus on one thing at a time. So for example, if we have something important at work, we focus on that one thing. If we are with friends or family, it's important to be fully present with those friends or with those family members. And in a sense, that declutters our lives. It takes away the noise of technology. When we're on technology, if we can, we should focus on one task at a time and close off all screens. So all of those things enable us to be at our best.
Yes, that makes sense. So, which of those do you think is the hardest habit to break?
Well, if we are on our smartphones, I liken it to being in a sweet shop. Now, I like chocolate. And if I'm in a sweet shop and I see some chocolate, oh, it's quite hard to resist. So I might buy some chocolate. So to expect to control what we do when we're online is expecting a lot of our willpower. And chances are we're not going to be successful. So if we want to break digital habits, we have to come offline. But that's only part of the story. So the other parts of the story are that whatever it is that we want to do, we must really want to do and enjoy doing. So that's the motivation. And the other thing is we've developed our digital habits by scrolling every day for years. But to create new habits, and what I mean by that is instead of having to think about doing something, they automatically happen on our autopilot. It can take as long as 66 days on average, and it could take longer depending on complexity. So we have to persevere until the new habit, the habit that we'd like to have, gets put into our unconscious and becomes part of our autopilot. But the easiest way is to change our environment. So if all of us can have an environment where there's no online devices, and if we physically move ourselves to that environment, then all the things that trigger our habits won't be present, and it will give us a chance to think.
Yes. And I do think that a lot of people can relate to that expectation of wanting to control everything online, whether it's social media, notifications, or just constantly staying on top of things. But like you said, the real challenge is stepping away and realizing that we don't actually need to be on all the time. And coming offline can feel uncomfortable at first, but it's often the very things that helps us, reset and see what truly deserves our attention, like you broke it down, and that's such a valuable insight, Colin.
Yes, and if you, as biological animals, our brains and our bodies are fully integrated, but we get fooled into thinking that we're a little bit like computers with hardware and software and they're somehow detached. So if you can, when you come offline, if you can do something that involves the whole body, now that could be exercise, that could be dance, it could be music, it could be a lot of things, it could be play. But if you do something that involves all of the body, then it brings you back into yourself as a biological human.
Absolutely, yes. I completely agree with that. Now, as we all know, that some people argue that technology is progress and not a problem. So, how do you balance the benefits of tech with the need for detox?
So really, I think of it as this way. If you go to work, do you go to work thinking, I'll be average. I won't be very good. I won't do my best. Or do you go to work thinking, well, actually, I'd like to do my best at work. I'd like to achieve certain things. I'd like people to respect me for being good at what I do. And the same is true in our social interactions with our families and with our friends. So what I try to do is, instead of saying, well, self-care is sort of perceived as a weakness, I try and flip that on its head and say, well, actually, as biological animals, our brains are probably something like 1,000,000 times more power efficient than a supercomputer with roughly the same raw processing capabilities, and maybe even more. But in order for us to perform at our best, we have to look after ourselves in the sense of athletes. We have to get enough sleep. We have to eat the right foods. We have to have lots of rest and recovery breaks during the day. We have to have lots of human connection. And it's also very beneficial to be in nature. So really, as business athletes, we really need to look after ourselves to perform at our best. Knowledge, we can't do anything about technology. Technology is going to advance. It's the human condition. So there's very little we can all do about the technology per se. But what we can do is about how we interact with it, and not to sacrifice who we are as humans with spending too long on technology. The technology today is so much better than 10 years ago. And in 10 years' time, the technology then will be so much better than today. So we will never be able to fully keep up and fully control technology. But what we can do is think about, well, in the future, what's role do humans play? And what are humans good at? Well, actually, humans are very good at living in this world, living at the edge of chaos where everything's changing and everything's complicated, and we make sense of it. Now, computers are good at calculating, and they calculate things, and they calculate language, they calculate everything. But they're not currently very good at understanding the world that we live in, because they're being trained on what we already know. But we don't know everything. We know a tiny fraction. So I think by looking after ourselves and staying connected with other people in the world around, we're actually safeguarding our futures and our future role with technology.
Yes, that's a fascinating perspective, Colin. And yes, you're right that, technology will always keep advancing in ways we can't fully control. But what we can do is to decide how we can show up in the middle of it all. And your point about humans being able to live well, even in a chaotic world, is really reassuring because it, shifts the focus from fighting against tech to building resilience and clarity within ourselves. Being said that, it's again a great reminder that balance isn't about stopping progress, but about choosing how we engage with it.
Yes, because technology advances because there's a market for it. We have to be slightly careful of AI because it's like an arms race, and there's absolutely nothing we can do about arms races. But the commercially available AI engages with us because there's a market for it. So how we deal with that market, how we consume the technology, that's the only thing that we can do. And we can't control the bigger picture, but we can control the things that we do. So I'm a strong proponent of controlling the things that you can control.
Yes, I too like that because it reframes detox not as rejection, but as recalibration. Yes. So, have you found pushback from people who see digital detox as anti innovation?
Yes, and immediately you say digital detox, people imagine spending 2 weeks in the forest. But my definition of digital detox can be as short as 20 seconds when you take a break from staring at a screen and you look out to a distant object. So you rest your eyes all the way through to those weekend away in nature. But the most important digital detoxes for professional people are those regular 10 to 15-minute breaks to help restore focus, attention, and energy levels.
That makes a whole lot of sense. And I really appreciate that. You know, it's true that digital detox often gets misunderstood as being like against technology or innovation when in reality it's more about how we engage with it. And the way you describe it really shows that stepping back isn't about rejecting progress, but about making sure that we don't lose ourselves in the process.
Yes, and also we have to step back because as humans, we need time to think. And if you imagine that you're in a room with lots of people and every one of those people are shouting at you, wanting your attention, we don't get time to think. And that's what being online feels like. So sometimes we step back. We've then got time to think. We can problem solve. We can be creative. We can think about what we really want to do. So stepping back is actually an essential thing for us to do as humans so that we can contribute at our best.
Yes, that's a great reminder indeed. Now, you have also spoken about the environmental cost of technology. So, how does our digital footprint affect the planet?
So I wrote a paper, must be several years ago, where the title was, "Is Your Digital Footprint Killing the Planet?" And to a certain extent, how we consume technology, all technology takes electricity, but all we see is our little smartphone, which is battery operated. But it's really the data centers that are consuming huge amounts of electricity. Still today, most of the electricity around the world is generated from fossil fuels. So that fossil fuels are creating lots of carbon dioxide and it's heating the planet. Because we're using our devices more and more, then the electricity consumption of the internet and all the related parts of it is probably equivalent to the airline industry and maybe even higher now. But of course, AI consumes so much more power that the large companies, Microsoft, Google, are investing in very small atomic power stations to power their data centers. But those stations, they take about 10 years to come into being. So in between time, they're burning fossil fuels.
I too feel, Colin, that we often think of technology as something intangible, like living in the cloud. But as you have highlighted, that it has really very real cost on the planet, whether that's that energy behind data centers, a device we constantly upgrade, or the waste that follows. And I like that how you have connected the digital choices we make every day to the bigger environmental picture because it reminds us that detox isn't just about our mental health, it's also about being more mindful of the footprint we leave behind, and that's such an eye-opening point.
Yes, when we see pictures of the cloud, they're always white clouds, but actually they're probably grey and some of them are very black clouds. But there's the other side of it, and that's electronic waste. There are more rare metals buried in waste tips than there are left to be mined in the ground. And that's how wasteful we've all been with upgrading our smartphones, upgrading our data centers and all of those sorts of things. So electronic waste is a horrendous problem as well.
Yes, absolutely, that's a powerful reminder. Now, If someone listening feels, addicted to the screen, what's the very first step toward a healthier tech life balance? And I think in today's era, there's a lot of people out there who are addicted to the screens.
So we can't really use the word addicted properly because it's a medical term. But let's say when we use addicted in common language, what we mean is we've got some terribly bad habits. Um, so the first step is always self-awareness. And the best way of being self-aware is to look at other people. So when we look at other people, are they anxious if they don't have their smartphones with them? Do they look at their smartphones first in the morning, last thing at night? Do they instantly react to notifications? And even if they're with friends and family, if they lost that sort of control, and then ask the question, well, do those apply to us? So if somebody has those sorts of bad habits, the trick is to take one slow step at a time in correcting those habits. And then you build upon those small steps. And then the way of doing it is you find something you really, really want to do and you make that your focus. You say, well, actually, I really, really want to do a sport, or I really want to read books, or I really want to be fully present when I'm with my friends. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. That's what you really want to do. And then slowly you train yourself over several months, because habits take several months to form, to do some of the things that you really want to do. But if you don't succeed, don't beat yourself up. Just say, "Ah, my smartphone got the better of me that time, but the next time I'll do better."
That's such a thoughtful answer, Colin. And I love like how you ground it in something so practical, just observing the people around us and then turning that lens inward. It really makes the idea of self-awareness feel less abstract, I would say, and more doable in everyday life. And also you've given listeners a clear, simple starting point. And I think that's powerful because real change often begins with noticing the real things. Really well said.
And the only extra thing there is, because we're social animals, if you can do a digital detox with a friend, then it's much more powerful because you've got accountability. It's like exercising is much easier if you go with a friend or any activity. So if you can digital detox with a friend, then you can hold each other accountable, and it's much more successful.
Absolutely, yes. And how can they keep themselves, consistent when the digital pull is so strong?
So it comes back to being an athlete. If you're an athlete and you're training for a particular sport, it means you have to always train and you have to always improve in what you're doing. So this isn't like a New Year's resolution where you can just have a one-off success. This is a lifestyle change where you'll always be working on trying to keep that balance. And partly because as technology changes, you're going to have different techniques to keep that balance. Sometimes through work, we may have to spend lots of hours online, but then we need to bring it back when we can to be in balance. So it's a lifestyle change and you have to work at it.
Yes, that's practical and empowering because real change starts with small intentional steps.
Yes, and you build on those intentional steps. It's just the same in sport.
Yes, absolutely. You have like framed it in a way that feels much more practical and doable. Yes. So technology isn't the enemy, we have learned, and it's how we choose to engage with it that defines our well-being, our focus, and even our future. And Colin, who have reminded us that by disconnecting with purpose, we can reconnect with ourselves, others, and the world around us. So tonight, take one simple action: put the phone down, look up, and live the life that's waiting beyond the screen.